As a career coach, I get asked all the time, how do you find your first job? Then, an almost immediate question follows, do I need a resume? Yes, you do, nearly in all cases. That leads to the question, but what do I put on it? I don't have any experience. And that, my friend, is what we're going to talk about today. Overcoming the number one obstacle to finding your first job. I'm Career Coach Craig. Please join me for a fresh new episode of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast up next. I was an engineer and in 2008 lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I have helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Welcome back to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Craig Ansell. We're rolling into episode 204, and it's titled, Overcoming the Number One Obstacle to Finding Your First Job. First, I'll say this. Kudos to you if you're looking for your first job and you found this podcast. You're willing to put in the time and effort to help you and your job search succeed at a much faster rate than most. I'm going to share a few stories today, also some tips to help you get unstuck in your job search journey. I put this show together because I get a lot of feedback on social media, and many of the times it is from students in high schools, colleges, those that are looking for their first job, and even entry-level jobs, maybe had a few minor jobs bounced around, and they're trying to find a job that they're interested in that's going to help bring in some good income, and they need help, basically, overcoming obstacles. The first thing I'll tell you is this, is that even if you are new to the job world, new to your career field, your area of interest, or you're still trying to find yourself, that is completely okay. We all have to start out somewhere, and employers know this. They know that if you're new to the job world, new to a career world, that you're going to have limited or possibly no experience. And that is okay. You don't need to fake it. You don't need to act like someone that you're not. You don't need to put down false information on your resume, introduction letter, or even cover letter, because that is not the way to go, spreading falsities, lies. You might get away with it the first couple times, but that will eventually catch up with you. And then as you get older, more experienced, and you start to find yourself in your career field, you do not want to hurt your chances getting into a higher paying, higher caliber role now that you've gained some experience. And then your resume, your background, your lies, your stretched truths hurt you. That can be a no-no. I mean, that is a no-no, and that can really hurt you. And here's something just to warn you. I am not suggesting you are going to do this, but I have had people state on my social media comments that they do openly lie on their resumes, and it seems to work for them. You know, in the short term, it may, but it will catch up with you. Now, if you are going to stretch the truth, do you know what happens? Eventually, you're going to get caught, just like breaking the law. Didn't get caught this time, you eventually will, I believe. Why is this so important to be honest, have integrity, and be truthful? Because many companies are owned by single corporations. Companies have multiple legs, multiple arms, multiple divisions. Where am I going with this, Coach Craig? Okay. If you apply for one company, one role in one company, and they catch you in a lie, a mistruth, whatever you want to say, stretched information on your resume or during the interview, if you get that far, that's going to set off a red flag in their system. You might say, well, I'll just apply for another role. Oh, look, it's the same company I applied to before, but it's in a different area, different section, maybe in a different town, different floor, they'll never know. Those companies keep human resource profiles on all their applicants. And once you're red flagged, you're red flagged. you are not likely to get additional attention, time, or the opportunity for an interview. So you might have tried out just stretching the truth just a little bit to get that first role. Now that you're really interested in another position at that company, maybe a friend of yours works there, they recommended you, whatever the case, not knowing your history, it's not going to work because you misled the first time. So that's just a warning. And again, I'm not suggesting you would do that, but let's get into the main content here, overcoming the number one obstacle, finding your first job. Many times my potential clients say, but Craig, Coach Craig, I don't have any experience. What am I going to put down? Well, that's the thing. Sometimes not having any experience or having limited experience is a benefit. A lighter resume, 1 page, is completely acceptable today, with the max typically being, believe it or not, just double that, 2 pages, unless the hiring company wants specific details. So a 1-page resume is absolutely fine. The biggest thing I'll tell you, and then I'm going to share a story also about some people having the exact opposite problem that you have, is that your story needs to be well written, your resume needs to be well written, well organized, and appealing to the eye. And I will get into some of that today. I mentioned about seasoned professionals having, we'll call them seasoned office professionals, and let's say 20 plus years of career experience. These people, they can fall into the exact opposite situation that you're in. Rather than believing that they have nothing to put down on their resumes, they actually have too much. And guess what? They often list too much. You might say, I'd like to have that problem. My answer to you, well, maybe. You see, these seasoned professionals come to me, usually with similar stories. I'm not getting any responses when I submit my resume. Or, I've been on the job hunt for X weeks. Or, dun dun dun, I've been on the job hunt for X months, and I'm not getting anywhere. These potential future clients send in their resumes to me, sometimes introduction letters and or cover letters, to allow me to perform a courtesy review for them. And in most cases, when I see these documents, they simply have too much content, okay? Frankly, it's overwhelming. Not just to me, but through my eyes as a seasoned, trained professional. If that's not enough for you, also through the eyes of hundreds of recruiters, hiring managers, and human resource professionals nearly worldwide. You see, as I travel, I engage with schools, churches, businesses, and these discussions come up regularly. Though these are the words and advice coming out of my mouth, I suggest you treat them as cherished words of wisdom. They come from today's society, today's hiring companies, today's humans, reviewing hundreds and sometimes even thousands of resumes. And they're also the same people that select who they're going to interview. So they have those words have a lot of power and a lot of authority. Now, thinking what I just shared, why would I be going in the opposite approach? They have the same problem you do, getting the information down to be concise. They have too much, you may believe you have too little to offer. But then, even if they were to cut down their information, it's still overwhelming because it's not well structured and doesn't tell a good story. So for you, my friend, that you're looking at overcoming an obstacle to finding your first job, or let's say one of your first jobs, let's repeat. A 1-page resume is absolutely acceptable. Make sure you have your name, your contact information at the top. If you choose to put it in a larger font, your name, there's nothing wrong with that. Introducing yourself, make it memorable, and be proud of yourself. That, then, followed by potentially your education or any experience you have, even if it's unpaid, and that's the kicker. That experience could come from working in your church, your neighborhood, helping out some family friends, maybe some elderly folks or disabled people in your neighborhood. Those things count. Talk about the things you did, the value brought. What else? It doesn't always have to be work experience that goes on your resume. If you've attended some form of higher education, middle school, high school, potentially college, guess what? You have had experience likely in after-school activities, after-school curriculum, right? Extracurricular activities, rather. Is that in track and field, chess club, leadership? Did you do community service because you enjoy helping others and giving back? Were you in a leader role? Did you play any type of sport? If you did, what sport was it? What position? Don't just list the sport or the activity that you were in and think of it that way. Use your experience, your knowledge to put that content down and elaborate on it, expand on it on your resume. Let's say that you had a lead type role. If you're in track and field, if you're in gymnastics, if you were in some type of sport, soccer, football, baseball, whatever it is, if you were a captain, a co-captain, team lead. See where I'm going? I may not call out exactly the position you held or what you did, but think about it. Again, without exaggerating, did your coach, did your team leader, did a parent on the team, did someone in a support role, coach, captain, leader, assistant, team dad, team parent, did somebody ever call you out and recognize you for a certain skill set you had, a certain set of capabilities? Those things you can start to apply with the right words on your resume. Why would you do this? Recognizing that you have limited experience or no experience yet in the job world because you're working on finding your first or one of your first jobs, you need to pull from what you have, what you've experienced so far. And I'm trying to give you ideas, again, just to repeat, get your mind, churning there. So church activities, volunteering, community service, neighborhood experience service. Do you help out on weekends? What do you do? It doesn't have to be paid, hence volunteering, hence giving back. And you can reframe and reword these activities so that they're shown up on your resume. Why would you do this? It's not a paid role. How does it matter? Here's why. If hiring companies are going through resumes and using that as a primary filter tool, why would they interview you? Rather, why would they call you for an interview? And why might they hire you over anyone else in that pile? It's about the value you have, your morals, your ethics. You can be coached. You can be trained, okay? And we're going to talk about that in my next episode, 205, how to realize you're more than a job title. So make sure you subscribe because next show is going to be incredible. But back to you. People read these resumes. They're human beings. I led with that earlier. They have hearts, most of them. They have caring hearts. Some of them are parents. They'll see that you have something to offer because you volunteered, you were engaged in after-school activities. Maybe you had great grades. Maybe you were in honors programs. These things aren't as common today as they once were. So anything you can list that's positive, that makes you stand out above others, I would put down. And if you say, well, Coach Craig, thanks, that's great, but I really wasn't involved in too much, put whatever you were involved in and then think about words that were mentioned of you, to you, what do they say about you? If they found something of value in you, an activity, a way you approach things, were you good at breaking up arguments, disagreements, you're a good mediator, a good reasoner, you have a really great way of seeing things. You're always looking at a future vision. You're a visionary. Yes, even in middle school, even in high school. And I have help my children write resumes way back when for those such positions, in middle school, high school, going into their first job in our community. And they got the interviews. They got the jobs. They had to do the rest of the hard work. We just got their information down on paper. So I used a lot of these techniques that I'm sharing with you. So think about it. If those people are looking to see what you've contributed up till now, how can you pull from your history, your background, your mental resume, if you will, and put it down on paper? That's what I suggest you think about with today's show, overcoming your number one obstacle to finding your first job or first jobs, depending on how many you've had and how lengthy they've been. So really, I guess there's only one first job, but that's words I chose to use today. You do have value, even if you have never worked anywhere, never volunteered everywhere, never helped out. You have value. You just have to decide where your passion is, what you're interested in, what you like, what you dislike, and that will help you start to apply for roles. I guess it was kind of like a mini celebration and career fair at the same time. There's an aging out program we have in Central Florida, and it's a problem where people that are in foster care, youth that are in foster care, are aging out of the system, and that means that they're no longer cared for by the system. It's no longer funded, and they have to move out and live on their own, find their own way in life with little or no assistance. That's the aging out part, right? Kind of becoming independent. And many of those youth are great, stellar youth, stellar young adults. It's just that they've had some difficult upbringing, some challenges in their lives with their parent or parents or family history. And in talking to one young lady, it was either last year or a year and a half ago when I was at one of those events, she's like, all right, Coach Craig, I'm up for the challenge. I don't know what I want to be. And I said, do you have 5 minutes? She goes, sure. So let's solve that right now. And we went through and unpacked the things she liked. I couldn't get through to her because she didn't know what she was interested in truly at that moment, or so she thought. So I used the exact opposite approach. Tell me about the things you don't like, the things that make you go, ooh, or eek, or twist your stomach, right, your gut. She's like, okay, I love animals, but I don't want to work with them because of blood. So what's that about? She goes, I just get squirmish. I'm like, okay, well, what else do you like about animals? And we started talking. We realized she could work at a vet. She could work in the front desk area as a receptionist. She could work as, an assistant to the nursing staff or medical staff, handling the animals, preparing their medications, preparing their vitamins, their shots, grooming them, washing them, caring for the animals. That is a critical role. Many of those roles are critical. You just don't necessarily have to be involved in any type of internal medicine, surgery type of things. If there are animals that have accidents and things that come in injured, okay, maybe that's not your can of soup, right? It gets you a little bit upset, gets you a little uneasy, queasy because of the blood. Sure, I get it. But slowly, one by one, we talked through these situations. We looked at different avenues in her life of what she liked, what she disliked, and what she completely was against or just totally turned her off. And within about 5 minutes, maybe 10, she had a couple great ideas on where she could go and where she could apply. Then using some of the techniques that I shared today, she could put a resume together just to introduce herself, talk about her passions. And once that resume gets you that interview, the rest is up to you. That high energy, that honor, that integrity, looking people in the eye if you're comfortable with it, shaking hands firmly if you're comfortable. Those things today are still important, okay? The virtual aspect, COVID is now over, thank God, at least the majority of it. And we're going back to in-person events, in-person interviewing. I'm not telling you to get you nervous. Getting you prepared is what I would say. Start processing in your mind these things. Being confident. Coach Craig, I don't know how to put a resume together. Well, I've got 203 episodes before this, and probably about a dozen of them or more can help you start up your resume and get you a decent one that'll get you some interviews. So remember, don't make it an eyesore. Don't overload it. Don't stretch the truth. Put down the value you can bring or brought to the school system, to volunteering, to intern, to being an internship, to wherever you were, to donating your time, and mark those things down. It will help fill up your resume, which is not the goal, but it is good to have some content on there, and that will help you with speaking points. Then, when you get the interviews, here's a key point. Print out, I'd say, a dozen resumes if you have the paper and ink, okay? At least 6, because you don't want to assume the hiring company has your resume. They may have used it to choose you for an interview, but one of the tests they do to see if you're prepared is to ask you if you have an extra copy or two. So I would print out at least 6 to 9. A dozen's great if you can afford it. Have one for yourself. That way, when they say, tell me about this in school, tell me about this in your church, tell me about this activity in your career field, why did you call yourself a strong communicator on here? Rather than look at them in the eye and then stall for time, oh my God, I'm nervous with words, you could say, oh, are you talking about position 3 here on my resume or down at the bottom when I worked at? Yes, or when I volunteered here, or when I was in this extracurricular course, or I took this special educational program at school. That will help you look down, break eye contact, take a deep breath, find the content. It's natural. They, in fact, might mimic you and look down at your resume in their own hands, giving you time to pause and catch your words. So there's a great reason why you'd want to build a resume. Keep it light, keep it fluffy, just put the key stuff in there. Well-structured and organized is critical, followed by keep a copy for yourself. I hope today's episode 204, Overcoming the Number One Obstacle to Finding Your First Job, helped you as we unpacked the number of tips, told a few stories, and maybe got up your energy or adrenaline. Go build that resume now. You don't have to finish it today after this podcast, but at least put your name, your contact info, pick maybe a color to celebrate your name. Celebrate you. Start it out. Then put down on that document all the stuff about your history. Forget about the structure. Forget about organizing it. It doesn't matter. Get it down and then start telling, I'm so excited. I'm swinging my hands. I hit my mic stand. You might have heard a pop. Then once you've got it down, you can drag it and organize it later. The hardest part about creating anything, a book, a resume, a cover letter, a report, a document, anything, is the creation phase. It's so easy, as I bang the mic stand again, I apologize. It's so easy to edit, but it's so difficult to create. So stop this show, we're at the end, and go put a resume together now if you don't have one. And if you do, look at it again. What's missing? What should come off? What should go on? All right? Leave comments on any of my podcast players out there. I'd love a 5-star review if you feel I'm worthy, and leave some comments how I can help you or what you learned today. I read those comments and I take them seriously. You want to connect further? At Craig Ancel, CraigAncel. That's me. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Career Coach Craig on TikTok. We'll talk soon. God bless. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ancel on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.